Welcome to Mystic Brew, and that's a little piece of music I have from from a song I have. Actually, the working title is "Going Back to Kashmir." But anyway, hello everybody, and let me get into the live screen here and greet Madfinger and Elephant, somebody who has made their way into my awareness, and I'm a little more familiar than some people might. And so Madfinger, Elephant, Meandering Mystic, and Amanda. Hello, Amanda. And Connie. Hello. And Raksha. Hello, Raksha. Of course, Raksha and I are shouldn't act like I have as if I haven't interacted with him in forever. He is a clan brother, and we interact quite a bit, keeping each other grounded, sane, doing the earth walk together. It's a very beautiful thing. And Meandering Mystic as well. Hey, enjoy being. Hello. Hello to New Zealand. That would be enjoy being. Well, I'm glad that this was good timing. Good timing could be, maybe is a good omen. So, I was ready to just kind of do what I've kind of been doing, which is tonight was going to be kind of a quiet night. Uncle Butchie didn't practice tonight. So I've just been kind of catching up with all kinds of things and enjoying expanding into my new space. Keeping the contacts I do, because we're halfway to another month's rent, which right now is still a little bit challenging, but everything looks like it's really going to work out as I'll say as the goddess intends. It's very clear that what happened here for me is a gift, and it's good to receive gifts with the intention that they're given. So, Amanda, it's good to see you again. Six of Arrows. So I had turned off my overhead fan because it's kind of the last 2 nights have been for me very pleasantly warm, but perhaps a little bit too still in the room. So I might want to put that overhead fan on. Might do strange things to my hair. I have been using my herbal preparation for my hair for the past month or so, and it really has helped things out quite a bit. It's very fluffifying. And that would be fluffifying as in being fluffy and having nothing to do with fluffer. Both are good. Oh, okay. Gonna have to use my little lighter. But all of my lighters, I always buy my kind of turquoise lighters, because turquoise or blue-green is my color. The color of immunocompetency, or the thymus. And I had wanted to really just kind of go out and have a cigarette, but the timing, I decided I was going to start at 11, and 11 before I got a chance to go outside and just kind of get the nicotine blood level that probably would be a good thing, because you know, the walking softly and dot 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 dot. So sometimes I try, you know, it's like turning myself off camera. This will be shameless tobacco consumption. So how the first question is, with the 10 people here now, or whoever is going to participate, I certainly understand lurking. So there's no no bad feelings towards lurkers. Lurkers lurk for their own reasons. I have lurked a bit recently, so there's good reasons to lurk, including privacy. And privacy is something that I feel that any good community will honor. Yeah, the Wildwood Tarot deck is really a good one. I have an herbal tarot deck, and I remember even before I could read tarot, I was a good enough herbalist that when I did spreads, even if I didn't quite know what the typical tarot card said, the herb would give me a lot of clues, and I had it on my bed. I don't know where it fell off, unless I thought I brought it upstairs, and maybe it is downstairs, but I don't think so. So I want to find it, because there are certain cards in the Wildwood Tarot deck I would like to see what herbs come up, and because there's always that one of the things that we've always done, and one of the things I like doing with Raksha and with other people, the kind of like the mystic crew, is kind of doing, like do rune reading, he'll do tarot reading, and then maybe an animal card, and then we just kind of unpack how they tie in, and very often the tie-ins are like right there in the language, but there's always that further unpacking and refinement, and the whole reason you do divination is to let the spirits speak to you, or the spirit speak to you. So it's good for me. Because we all have unique perceptions of anything. We could, you know, three people could be watching a sunset, and if everybody compares notes, there's going to be a slight difference. But in those differences are, in fact, an amalgamation that can be had, or a composite, where it can be made richer. But we have to share for that richness. I'll take the glare of my lighter off camera. And having the overhead fan has definitely made it a lot less stuffy in here. Yeah, I have to admit, Amanda, I went, you know, purging, cleaning up, and one of the things that came upon was a cache of photos of myself in my late 40s. Well, some of them actually go older, but you know, some photos I hadn't seen of myself in a long time. Some of them with the beard I had then, and some of them actually clean-faced. Some of them with hair this length, and some of them with hair just shoulder length, and another one that was considerably shorter. So it was fun to kind of to look at them and share them with friends. Hello, Deborah. Hola. So how is everyone doing? Because it's been interesting times for sure. And I know, you know, probably, you know, in my last couple of shows, you know, I presenced the last full moon, which I personally described as a snap, a snapping, and further unpacking is a snapshot. And I personally hold to that. There are other people who, in the moment, did not experience a snapping. They experienced some pretty wildness. Some people ascribed it to Mars. There's a whole bunch of planets in retrograde, and for some people, that is that ha- I mean, it has meaning for me too, because the world, not the planet, but the world is captured in the, kind of a system, the solar system. I mean, once again, this is just a mystic brew, but I'll always be a Telesti or a Telestic, and so I have to interpret things within my gnosis, um, and I understand I'm just sharing a perspective. Sharing perspective seems to be welcome, although sometimes certain perspectives seem to be able to create some blowback. Um, well, downright barroom fights. People with one hand tied behind their back. But there Mars has been really strong. Mars is, the last full moon, actually, Mars was at its perihelion, or the closest it will be to the Earth in a very, very long time. So just because it's not at its closest, it's still real close. Mars is really bang up there. And I do sense Mars becoming less martial as time goes on, and I attribute that to our mother, because with her agency, she's starting to flex herself into the solar system that has tried, or somewhat successfully, capture her for a while. And so there was kind of two places to reach out, the nearest planets. One is Mars and one is Venus. So does she go after the warmonger, or does she go after the slut? So I think going after the warmonger was a good choice. We can deal with the slut later. And let me also say, enjoy being, that hearing that you're doing well on a personal level is delicious to hear. Yeah, there is that calm, enjoy being. There is a calm to have. Um, and that's kind of, I have been partaking of some of that calm, but also in that calm has had a chance for me to, I guess, process some stuff that is probably best processed before the next full moon. Yeah, the new one. Yeah, the Bhairavi shift was very. I caught Bhairavi on the third night, or the moon, but her shift. Um, and she's come. She seems so far she has come in fail in a slight, more purring than roaring mode. I've heard definitely there's been some roaring. Um, but I have to admit, I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit wondering how this full moon, which is not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday, because the last full moon, it was kind of the one with Vajrayogini in the crab. So if you know anything, if you want to turn the crab into Cancer, from a zodiacal point of view, do so. There was some of the energy, some of it was crabby, but I remember the first 2 weeks not being in any particularly emotional thing, but a lot of home type of energy, feeling good things about family. And then when the full moon came, it was like, where'd that tsunami come from? Or where did that storm come from? There was not a cloud in the sky. Next thing I knew, I was drenched, and lightning was all around. So if so it was like the last full moon just was like came on like a thief in the night, as they say, to use a cliche. I'm not a big fan of cliches at all. And so I'm just really wondering if if this next full moon is going to be like on Saturday everything is well, not too much roaring going on, and the full moon hits and who knows. So there's been some I'm doing some clearing out of the inner spaces, the psyche. Um, at 65, I've and 4 marriages. There's there's certainly things that hurt. Um, because there isn't a time machine to kind of redo stuff a little bit. So it is what it is. But there are certain inner stances and sometimes some inner work, and even ho'oponopono, that kind of thing where I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, is the 4 phrases that go with that. And and also tying in with there were a couple of days I went through some pretty bad anxiety, but fortunately I had a brother to walk walk through that with me. And anxiety, what's a good tool is if you're feeling anxious, it has to do with future. If you're feeling depressed, it has to do with the past. So so I went from anxiety to depression, um, and the depression was a little bit easier to ferret out because it was laying there in the past. The anxiety about things yet to happen, a little trickier. Today has been a little bit of each, and a little of each. Not so. It seems like the leveling out is coming, and did some really good combination divination with with some one of the mystical people in our group, and thank you. Enjoy being. I have my. I did put on my magic milk, um, rose restorative magic milk face cream last night, so I'm still seeing the softening and hydrating effects of it. And I have been sleeping. I have been getting good sleep. Yeah, it does. I mean, because especially as Meandering Mystic says, he uses it, and once again, the depressed part is like, okay, well, at least that's kind of accessible. You might have, it's kind of like finding things in the closet. You might have to move some shit out of the way to find it. But persistence pays off. Where the anxiety with things yet to be, that can get a little trickier. And then, of course, with things yet to be, then they're not there. So too much anxiety could it's a little bit being for me feeling like a little bit like hey, a little bit too much drama here. And of course, just doing a little bit of a retreat, like feeling that I didn't know which way to turn or what to say, and all of my inner guidance was there is nothing to say in this situation. Um, the situation speaks for itself. So, um, so taking some quality time for myself, and I actually was gonna I wanted to upload a song 2 nights ago, and it was one of the nights I was still feeling kind of depressed, and I said I'm ignoring this. I'm gonna put on my camera, not live stream. I'm gonna record it and upload it, And it's a song I know all the words to and all the chords to, and didn't even make a mistake in the chords. It flowed really well. So I say, well, let me review this and just see if, usually I will hit a couple of, I don't call myself a singer. So occasionally there's a note or two here or there. It's like, I didn't quite make that one. But, I will take a few. I accept a few clunkers. Man, I turned it on, I hear my first words starting the song. I went, oh man, you missed, boy, that was terrible. And it didn't get better. It did not get better. I didn't know. I don't even know how I made it through the song thinking that it... I'm sorry about the cats out there. Is anybody else experiencing low audio? I mean, part of the reason my audio is low is because my energy is a little bit low. And according to my mic meter, I'm doing pretty good. Okay, I wonder if I can turn it up from here. Hello, hello. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it too much. So, okay. I turned up the gain a little bit. I'll do it in increments. But I am speaking low. That's one of the reasons I actually have the mic a little closer to me. Usually you won't see the mic, but I lifted it because I knew that my voice wasn't going to be projecting very well. So hello, Oswald and Forrest. And, okay, now I lost my train of thought. Headphones make a huge difference. And also, like, sometimes I turn on videos and they're difficult for me to hear. I have to go into my audio manager and turn up the the volumes that are hiding there, because not only is there a master volume, but like whatever your browser has its own volume, so there's two different volumes to do there. Hold on a second, I got a few cats in heat that need talking to. You might hear my voice. Yeah. Yeah, cat whisperer. Hello, Niche. I don't think I was convincing enough to them. So let's see, Rock. I'm 100%. So it's still low, huh? I'm just concerned that I'm going to turn it up and then all of a sudden it's going to be right for others. And I remember we went through. I did this one other time. All right, it's up a little more. So, Cheers, MC. Good. Thank you, Oswald. Moose, how about you? Is it better now? Hello, Daniel. All right. Yeah, we'll enjoy being apparently turning down is a little bit easier. I'm sorry. I was concerned that a few people might get blasted. Yeah. I was concerned about that, Amanda. Trust me. Because when one group is saying it's fine, another group is saying it's low, then when you turn it up, the ones that were fine are suddenly going to get, it's going to change for them. So sorry about, hopefully your eardrums will recover. Sorry about that. Thank you, Amanda. I'll have to find a new beginning here. And there's a stink bug in my room. Who just buzzed me. Do want to get him out of here. No, he just landed on the screen. Oh, I have things for treating. The funny thing is they didn't quite work as well. Sometimes there were certain, that was a signal to me that something's on the horizon. I've been an herbalist, I can't remember how long, an aromatherapist. I most of the time I get a little anxiety, and within a half an hour it's all done. Within a half an hour I'm good. But this was a different situation, and but things are changing, and there are things in the future that will be attention getting. Because something has to get certain attention. A lot of stumbling around. A lot of stumbling around. Yeah, exciting. They are exciting. I mean, I actually sometimes, when I'm getting ready to go on stage, I don't have usually, but I get like a little pre-stage stuff, very minor, but it's really a form of excitement, and that excitement has a little bit of anxiety, a little anxious aspect to it, and usually takes about one song, and then the complete the stage is mine mode kicks in. Enough with this tiny little cigarette. I'm gonna roll a big fatty of tobacco. So I've been doing my gardens coming up real nice, real well. Nice is actually a bullshit word, but and the way we use it doesn't mean that it's, when we say it, it's bullshit. But because I know it's a bullshit word, I'm trying to use it a lot less. Unless I actually mean to say, that's nice. So, yeah, garden's doing well. I was waiting for my carrots to come up, and finally I looked at the package, And it says planting depth, 1/4 of an inch. I remember when I planted those carrots. I probably planted them 1.25 inches. So on the full moon, which is when you would, after the full moon, when is the ideal time to plant root type things, I will put the carrots in again, and I will place them 1/4 of an inch deep, and then I should be able to get some carrots. You know, I started my garden late. I didn't start my garden until the roommates left a little over a month ago. So, but one of the things I'm going to start thinning out, because I planted them quite close so that I could thin them out, is my kale. Because that way I can take my kale, my broccoli stalks, and carrot juice. That's one of my favorite juice combinations. And the kale I had been saving, I waited too long, and it's now in the compost. So I just realized, oh well, and they're really, since I've been watering them a little more diligent, and they're really coming out nice. And it's really interesting. There is a large beetle that looks kind of like a stink bug. It's a little longer. It's kind of, I think, a grayish blue, and it has a long sucking proboscis, and it really does a job on the leaves, and it was really attacking my zucchini leaves. So I pulled one off, put it on a rock, and I smashed it. And then I got this really perfumey floral scent. And I'm smelling my hand. I go, does the bug juice, does this bug's guts smell really sweet? And there was a little touch of chlorophyll in it, and sure enough, I picked up the bug, and it smelled like a certain, like not a flower that I know of, but it was floral. No, this wasn't a stink bug. This was a bug, that was just really attacking my garden. And my garden is very clay. It still hasn't had that much composting. So when plants are a little bit weak, they definitely attract bugs. Real healthy plants don't attract bugs as much. Anyway, I went, this is actually a pretty darn pleasant smell. And because it's floral, it would need a fixative, so either a sandalwood or a vanilla. I think a vanilla might make it real nice. But if sandalwood might work, it would need a base. But, I can't really, but anyway, so what I've been doing, today I think today I pulled off a half a dozen bugs, of these bugs. And so I'm trying to get them and just smash them on their head and then wait until I get them. So I'm putting them, I have a jar, I put in with some ethyl alcohol instead of isopropyl. Ethyl alcohol is a natural alcohol. Isopropyl is a kind of a synthetic version of it. They're both, you can buy them both as rubbing alcohols. Generally, the ethyl won't go, is usually at 70 or 71%. You can get isopropyl as high as 91%. But again, I don't want to use isopropyl for something I would want to use in my skin. And the other thing is, I left the bug juice on me just in case it had, I wanted to see, did it have any kind of chemicals in it that would create blisters, because you never know. Just because it smells good doesn't mean that your skin's going to like it. But it seems to be completely benign. So I'm collecting these bugs as I kill them, and I'm sticking them in a jar with a small amount of ethyl alcohol, and I figure at some point maybe I'll have bug perfume. Yeah, one of the reasons why, like with this stink bug, why I want to make sure I capture it and not just kill it, because I know, man, and it's a stink. It's a strange, acrid stink. But anyway, these bugs which are not stink bugs, they're a little more slender, but they kind of have a little resemblance. They just, yeah, Google is a really good friend, and in my case, I use StartPage, for if you like to read. Google is not, well, I guess if you're looking for YouTube, you can use Google too, but anyway, So anyway, these I'm collecting these bugs, and I realized that the best way for me to get them, and also to make sure that they're not in any kind of mangle when I get them, I just kind of take my thumbnail and get them in the head. And then as I'm taking them, putting them in the bottle, I'm kind of squeezing them into the alcohol. But it's an experiment. I mean, there's, you figure there's all kinds of dyes that are made from certain beetles and whatever, and I'm not, collecting these beetles so I can, make a scent from them. I'm pulling them out of my garden and killing them because they're going to return. So, it's kind of like I'm taking them out. So I'm just going to see if I can't make some lemonade from this bug infestation. No, I think it was, well, actually the purple dye I think was made from a certain mollusk, something from the sea, and that was the royal purple dye, Amanda. But there were other dyes, and matter of fact, there were a number of things that were made from beetles. Matter of fact, if you might recall, Spanish fly was made from a certain ground beetle. So no, you're not going crazy, but it was a mollusk, some kind of the crushed shell of a specific. The name might even come. I used to know the name. Anyway, here's a nice bigger and fatter cigarette. So yeah, I was moved to. Well, there was no other. There seemed like no other live streams were going to be happening tonight, and so it seemed like it might be a well-placed time for one of us to go live. And I haven't been live in a little bit, and a few people are going, "I miss you." All right, I hear you. And actually, I like what MC Wizard is putting in there, and so it's not really a distraction in the because I'm an egghead, and he's bombing this chat with some really good nerdy and geeky stuff here. But yeah, people were saying you were missed, and one or two of those expressions were given to me today. So I just said, oh, okay, can I do this? Can I get on there and just kind of walk softly and catch up? No, thank you, Forrest. So, well, like I said, I felt a prompting. It wasn't real. I can't really say that the idea was mine. Had I been left to what was going on, I guess of my own neural activity, I wouldn't have even thought of it. But I was getting incoming. I was getting incoming from inside, and I was getting incoming from outside. And what? I just said I liked it, MC. Unless you're just joshing with me. Like I said, I like the geeky and nerdy stuff. Hello, Hans. I guess where you are, it's morning. Well, then I'm getting from the live stream that it was that following that prompting, because I actually almost dragged myself in front of the camera, and just said something is driving me to do this, and so I'll do it. So I do want to do a retake of my song Just Yesterday, and it's a little bit about the ephemeral nature of time. The opening verse is, I have just turned 17, or that's how it seems, but that was over 4 decades ago. And then I turned 40, and it seemed so shortly after I had just turned 24. It all seems like yesterday. Seems like it happened just yesterday. And then there's more. And, but when I listened back to it, I didn't make it through, I think I made it through 20 seconds of a song that runs about 3 minutes, because it was just a horrendous vocal performance from the point of holding to pitch. But I was, like I said, I was forcing myself to do that. That was a particularly depressed night. I said, I'm not going to give in to this depression. I'm going to be productive. Yeah, right. But I gave it a try. I mean, I really did. I didn't give it a try. I did it. I actually performed the song, and if it passed the smell test, it was going to go up under ModWiz Presents, with that wonderful piece of artwork that Martin Christian rendered of me, and that I used for the last song I put out, which was, what was that one? Oh, the Goob song, right? Goob song. Got really good feedback on the Goob song. Thank you, everybody. Including, and not to mention, Enjoy Being sent me a vocal-roo. There's a thing you can record voice on, and he sent me a few renditions, but he sent me another rendition this time, and he kind of adjusted more in comfort for his pitch, and I kind of liked it. It was a little Frank Sinatra-y, although again, in that he was able to take, like, if you ever heard Frank Sinatra do a cover of other people's music, he'll take the melody and he's still in key, and it's whatever, but he has, he'll do it in his slightly own fashion, and that's kind of what I got from Enjoy Being. It was fun. And talk about applause is great, but when somebody sings your own song back to you, that's real yummy. Oh, the lyric from that first song? Yeah, it's really just about, about time. And everything, no matter how long ago it was, it seems like yesterday. So that's why the name of the song is Just Yesterday. Actually, there's a bridge to it, and I like the bridge. Actually, what is the bridge? Turning around and around, then we would fall to the ground. That was how we got high. We went rolling down hills. We didn't need any pills, and we paid no attention to time. We didn't need any pills. And if you recall, some nights, I remember turning around and fall to the ground, and the head very spinning, and that was kind of the kid high. And I went tumbling down hills. That was big fun. Listened to a very interesting Higher Side Chats last night, because Carl was sitting with Gordon White, and Gordon White is just a brilliant fellow. And he also, one of the things about Gordon White, he does serious research. So even if he will he'll present the data, and sometimes I don't always exactly, or even at all, agree with his conclusion of his data. He's, just getting the data, the fact that he's taking the time out and do the kind of research that he does, and then his ability to use language to share what he has discovered. I don't care what conclusions he comes up with, and of course I'm willing to entertain his conclusions as well. But he's great. I really love Gordon White. And it's really interesting. I mean, panspermia is a big concept of how life got started in the galactic arms, and from the Sophianic myth, there was an original burst of panspermia, and then when she formed into the Earth, there was a direct infusion, because she was late to the game as far as being a planet in the galactic arms. And but the conclusion, the directed panspermia, is a little different. Although there's certainly room for instances of it, but he just brings so much information. And then Cliff High has been putting, again, I don't agree with Cliff High's conclusions about the NOMO, as far as, once again, this is the conclusion, it's not the data, because the way to me the way to work scientifically is you collect your data, and the data is just data, and then you assemble the data into a storyline or the conclusion. And so people whose conclusion, sometimes I'm like, not my conclusion. Their data is just like, this dump of treasure into my lap. And I watched it last night. He put them out from my perspective. Higher Side Chat, I think, put up like 4 different shows that they had in the can, and if he did another one tonight, very cool. But I listened to it last night. That was somebody not obeying the not heeding the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So there are certain people who, even though they I certainly am willing to entertain their conclusions, and have no need to argue with their conclusions. But their data, oh man! And Cliff High is great for that, but Gordon White even more so. I really like Gordon White. I would say there were people, MC, that sometimes, again, how they assemble their data is, for me, is just like, nope. But their data completely adds to my, expands the basic, narrative that I work with, because the terma, or the treasure of Gaia, of the Sophianic narrative. It's almost like a treasure chest, and you open it up and you can kind of see that, oh yeah, this is good stuff. But then you can examine each of the things that are in there. There's unpacking to do, and then there's also kind of ancillary other mythos that bounce around that actually have ways of in my opinion, have ways of integrating and actually expanding the Sophianic narrative without changing a word of the narrative, where the narrative is the narrative, but it's almost like it's the trunk of a tree. It is the tree and the roots system, and some really absolutely great branches. But there are those things that kind of come off those major branches, and some of these other data streams, I'm able to see branches that I think fit onto that. But again, they're expansions. They're not insertions. They're not insertions into the narrative. The narrative, in my opinion, is not to be inserted into. That's how we've gotten some of the more modern narratives are insertions. Matter of fact, and then who else was I listening to? Another guy. His name was Laird. I listened to two higher side chats, and one was this guy Laird, and he was actually examining various creation myths. And he brought up, so I don't even want to get into it too much because I would have to listen to it again because I wouldn't want to mess it up. That I thought was absolutely man, you're nailing it, you're nailing it. Oh, this is awesome, this is awesome. But then he goes, and then I think Carl said, well, and that's kind of seems to be saying this. He goes, yes, it seems to be saying that, but my take on it is this. And I went like, really? Really? And I don't want to be controversial about why there seemed to be almost an apologist for a certain other mythos interpretation there, but again, the research. This man put in some real scientific research, and he was sharing it, and boy, I benefited. I loved it. I don't care that I didn't love his conclusion or even disagree with it. He brought up some great stuff. So these are a couple of those couple of shows, especially that show, that one with this guy. I don't know if Laird is his last name or first name. I think it's his last name. Great stuff. Yeah. Then, well, again, there's that. I like that you brought that up, Forrest. And as far as, and then I think about many races coming here as spoken about by Zohar Channel, and if the Numo are just another race after Sophia's creation. That is really where I think, see, that's where it gets both interesting and I can understand, like, since this is not a Can't You Hear Me Gnostic stream, I feel quite comfortable moving around a little bit. But with that said, I want to say that the Sophianic creation story is the story. This is not anything that I might be saying. Or please do not hear as insertions. There's nothing being inserted. To me, there's extra that can sit as one of those kind of tributary branches off of the greater trunk and the roots. And I understand in the case of John's reticence about to maybe branch out because the trunk and the roots are still to be appreciated. But for some of us who that's it. There's some freedom to have commentary, or a complimentary commentary, including some of the other things that are floating around out there and some of the other claims. And one of the things about the troublemakers is making claims. So that becomes part of the fun, is calling the bullshit on the claim, but it also go, oh, but there's a little bit here. The claim, the outright claim, like we created humanity. Oh yeah, fuck off. But like I've done a lot of work reading the work of Anton Parks. I have two of his books. One of them is called Eden, and that is mind blowing. And very revelatory about some of this, almost like the psyche of who the people we're now calling the Anunnaki. I like the way Cliff is, and Cliff also calls the Anunnaki bullshit artists, making claims to have created a being that the Nomo created. I think the Nomo are again. I'm not buying the Nommo creation story either. As far as the native human species on this planet and how that species came about. Now, tinkering, one of the interesting things about the Anunnaki, especially when you get into the good stuff, like what gets done in the Eden work, is how when they seem to want to create a being. Now, one of the reasons they want to create a being is because the humans that they were encountering on the planet were quite unruly and wild. And if we take this back, and because there's people say that in every instance, Cro-Magnon man was not only in every way a modern human, they had a larger brain capacity. So for me, there's room to, and they, like when you look at the Lascaux paintings and all the incredible art, and that locates, and puts the Aldebaran, the eye, in the constellation of the bull in a picture of a bull, and then they had the Pleiades sitting around this bull in a cave where the Pleiades would be within the constellation of the bull. It's like, hey, these people were on it. And and then when I think about how robust they were, that they had a bigger brain capacity, it's starting to look to me that like Cro-Magnon is actually us before some fuckery started happening on this planet. In other words, that it meant that the Cro-Magnon and that strapping 7-foot-plus being with greater cranial capacity than ourselves, that when I kind of get a feeling into that, I'm going, now that's something Mama would create. That sounds like the original template. That feels like it. It's artistic like it. It's shamanic like. I said, that feels juicy good. So one of the interesting things in the more erudite tellings of the many, there are so many texts that come out of Sumerian things, and this is Anton Parks is somebody who's gone like beyond the normal stuff that's been done. So basically you have the same story that we've kind of heard told in different ways, but with basically the same story told in different ways. And one of the interesting, their original gardens that they had planted for themselves for them to eat were raided by the humans that were already on the planet. They were raiding their planets, and since they were coming out of the forest, they were bringing all of the the fungi and everything else that real forests are healthy enough to deal with. But whoever these are non-Anunnaki types had grown these pristine forests and very isolated things. And when the native bacteria and everything else that a real forest can deal with came into these pristine gardens, it diseased those crops. And not to mention, and I'm going to say we were taking their stuff. But once again, this was our planet. So if we harvested what was on our planet, and just because these strangers came over here and started planting some stuff, it's like, hey, if we can take it, we're taking it. This looks like a fancy forest to us. So anyway, but one of the things that seems to get done when they decide that they're going to build something, and part of it is from the Ijiji, who were the lower class Anunnaki, who were the laborers. And they were like, we're tired of all this labor, because the Anunnaki were, they had the fuckery, they had the monarchy type system. That's even in their own telling, was when the monarchy or kingship was lowered from heaven to earth. Oh, please gag me. Or the fuckery was lowered from heaven to earth. And so they had, this real, that like, just imagine a feudal system. Okay, if you want to know what fuckery looks like, imagine a feudal system with monarchs, and then the nobility, and then you have the serfs, the peasants. So the Ujiji were the equivalent of Anunnaki serfs. And they were being driven real hard. And apparently they knew that there was there was tech around to create a being to relieve them of their burdens. And so apparently they bugged Enlil or somebody, and the Grand Council got together, well, we better do, and apparently they were even going on work strikes. So there was trouble in heaven. And okay, I guess I better just get out of the chat for a second, and so because I must maintain a certain lack of. I just have to keep my focus. So okay, the Gigi are revolting, and so they were like, we're stopping working, and we know you can do something. So, but anyway, apparently they decide they're going to do it, and then so supposedly in this mythos, Enki is the scientist who can do it, but he says you can't do it without Nin Harsag. He needed one of the Kadishtu, or the women who had the knowledge of life creation to assist him. On a side note, one of the funny things that Cliff High does put out, and I loved it. I loved it when he did it about the Anunnaki. It was they liked their wine. Apparently, there was a whole lot of drinking going on. And when you look at how mercurial some of the stories are of them, and if you know anything about how people who drink too much, like when they're not so much drinking, they're kind of this way, and then they drink too much, and then all of a sudden they're all kind of crazy. Some of the tales almost read like that. So I really like that Cliff kind of presenced that while the Anunnaki were creating whatever this being would be, they were probably they were probably drunk or drinking. Anyway, so according to their own tales, the first experiments didn't turn out so good, and some of them could only crawl, they couldn't walk. I mean, they were all fucked up. But apparently, through trial and error, or maybe a sober week, they seem to be able to put something together. And I think the word thing is very operative here when we talk about something. And of course, there certainly seems to be some kind of tie-in with the Anunnaki and some kind of demiurgic influences. So, but it does seem that, again, they were mimicking this very, they certainly didn't want to duplicate this very robust human animal that was all over the planet and was completely unmanageable. We were unmanageable. I think that they wanted, again, this some kind of pet to do some shit for them, and they finally managed to cobble something together. And one of the things that actually lends itself to why people sometimes think that the Anunnaki created us is because of all the various genetic diseases that are in humanity. And they're all, and certain groups have groups, like certain haplogroups have will be plagued by certain kinds of genetic diseases. But there are a whole host of genetic diseases in humans that animals don't have, and the only animals that do duplicate the kind of genetic diseases that modern humans seem to be plagued with are purebred animals, which are the purebred pets, which are basically kind of Anunnaki Frankensteins of wolves. And so that's, anybody who knows the difference between the robust health of a mutt and the kind of precarious condition of purebred dogs. And again, part of that, is irresponsible I feel, upon the breeders, because they're breeding champions, and they end up with the normal things that happens when you take strains that already have like a little bit of a thing, and maybe you really shouldn't blend them, but you got this champion and this champion, and so you end up getting a lot of that kind of greed in breeding. Cats, dogs, horses. So anyway, there seems to be room for the consideration that these Anunnaki produced a being that probably was breedably compatible with the Anthropos. But I also believe that this being was of much smaller stature. So I think they created a being that was mentally inferior, physically smaller, and genetically a mess. And they largely stayed on the plantation. But then we have, and that could have gone on for a while, and then we kind of coming a little bit closer to modern times, and we have the demiurge urging this section, this group, not the native humans, not the Anthropos, to be fruitful and multiply. So needless to say, I don't want to get too lengthy, but it seems, and then I think, be fruitful and multiply, build weapons, go out and kill all the, go out and exterminate anybody who doesn't believe that there's 10 rules you all need to follow. Just go out and kill them. And then, of course, what the Christians did to pagan Europe, killing the wise people, killing the wise women, leaving behind the young women that they took into slavery and they would breed with. So I think, a lot of I think what we're seeing today is, again, we have the Sophianic, we have a natural, human, robust, ass-kicking, brilliant shaman, intelligent, bigger brain capacity, disease-resistant being that our mother created, that Sophia created. Then you have this infection that in many ways I kind of see the assault on the Anthropos as two-pronged. One came in the form of an ideology, an infection of the psyche, and then there was the taking of this created being that was the one that was being first infected with this new cosmology, and then sending it out with weapons to kill basically the remaining people of these taller stature, and then breeding with the young women left behind, and what else, and of course, again, if you had any knowledge. So I see in many ways modern humans, to greater and lesser degrees, because there are certain isolated populations that seem to have fared better and have far less in the way of genetic diseases, like the Hunzakuts high in the mountains of Pakistan. You could Google Hunzakuts, Hunzakuts. They drink glacial water. And one guy visited them, and he noticed that when they served him water, it was nice and clear, but their water was all milky, because the natural glacial runoff has all the minerals in it, and they drink that mineral stuff. And they said that they didn't think he would think it was muddy, so they gave him the clear stuff. So there's definitely bits of populations. And then when you start getting into the work of New Earth and Sylvie, and what Sylvie Ivanova and the survivors, and what their stature was, and how they were not warlike, And then there just seem to be extermination campaigns as this virus has as an ideology is spreading, and as the infection into the anthropos is spreading, largely through conquest and then mixing with the surviving young females. It's a theory of mine that I'm playing with, but the more I look at Cro-Magnon man, because when you show like a graph of like modern man, they'll give the modern man like 6 feet, Cro-Magnon man a little bit above 7 feet, larger brain capacity. So this tallness, and then we have the tall red-headed people that seem to be showing up all over the planet with great culture. So I think there's something, there's a thread there to follow. And again, it's it's not even, and it does not disturb one whit that the anthropos is native to the earth, was created by the aeons, and then we got a fresh batch after Sophia left the aeons in the pleroma, turned into the earth, and needed a fresh dose of the general panspermia that probably been put out billions of years before, because part of the Sophianic narrative of the Gnostic shamans or the Telestic shamans was the horror when she was in the pleroma, this is Sophia, of seeing that the anthropine type species throughout the millions, if not billions, of planets throughout the galaxy seemed to always kind of end somewhat tragically. And she was a little concerned, and her concern actually got to the point where it created a pulling, and she pulled out of the pleroma. And then you could just delve into this is not my thing here. Those of us who know the Sophianic narrative know it well. So this is, to me, there is no disturbance of the narrative. There is just that after we're here and we're doing our thing on our planet as sovereigns, shit starts to happen. And I think there's something to be gained from knowing about that shit. But the thing is, I think there are some people who are going to want to jump off into that tangent before they have understood the roots and the trunk of the tree of the Sophianic narrative. And I understand why the one who restored that, John Lamb Lash, would be concerned, because people are very easily distracted by the things, and especially more people know about some of the stories, thanks to Zechariah Sitchin and endless YouTubes, about that creation story, and so that's familiar, and that's going to be a natural draw to pull into that. And for me, it's not a natural draw, but for me it explains how such a healthy, robust, tall, powerful anthropos is in this kind of genetically diseased, smaller cranial capacity. It's like, what happened here? This is not something she would do. And so that's kind of that's part of what I laid out there, is kind of how I answer my question. It's not to be your answer, but it's an answer I'm working with, and I'm sharing that. So let me go in the chat for a while, see what's going on there. Oh, just here, the Smithsonian is where our story goes to die, so that his story may survive. And then they'll all say, well, what about this? And I'll go, and I've said this before, they'll say, oh, that's a mystery. Mystery to me is code for my story, and my story is the individual aspect of our story. So our story, my story, mystery, that's what really happened. And then there's his story. Hans, for me, the reason I see there are certain people who put out information, and the fact that they disable comments to me is a good thing, because when you enable comments, anybody can comment. Matter of fact, Walter Bosley, another person I really enjoy, he generally disables comments, and I actually support him doing that. And one day he allowed comments, and I said, Walter, I just want to say hello and tell you how much I enjoy your work since you have enabled comments, but I want you to know that I totally support you disabling them. If people had real information, they'd make YouTubes instead of writing into comment sections, in my opinion. That's what YouTube is for. If you really have something to say, make a fucking video. To me, a comment section is where the participation trophy generation goes. No child left behind. Hello, White Lunar World Bridger. I mean, there are sometimes I go to live chat, I go to live streams, and I hide the chat to spare myself from pulling out my hair because of comments. I mean, there's informed comments, and then there's other kinds of comments. And there's plenty of sophistry. And we must all be reminded that it was the sophists who decided to put Socrates, the philosopher, to death. Philosophy means love of wisdom. Sophistry is love of questions. The love of what-ifs. Well, Hans, something I don't keep secret, but I usually don't find much reason to mention it. I mean, I left, I used to have my sticker up. I left, I think, in 2010, but I was a Master Mason. And I don't pick up as a Master Mason, I don't pick up Masonic stuff, so I can't feel Masonic stuff into her work. Because I mean, I stopped going, stopped paying the dues, but I'm an initiated Master Mason. Thank you, Daniel. Now, and another thing is, one of the things she does that I'm very familiar with her work is I kind of crept out of my atheistic thing, although I started with Lobsang Rampa's The Third Eye. I had been an Episcopalian altar boy, and then I left being an altar boy and a church because as an altar boy I got to ask the reverends the deep questions, and I got the lame answers. So I was an atheist for a short while, and to me reading the Old Testament is another thing that'll make you an atheist. But then I got into Lobsang Rampa. Now, who knows if he was the real deal? He was this Englishman who supposedly had a walk, who was who led a boring life, and some high Tibetan Lama had died and wanted his body so he could carry on. So the Englishman left, and the Lama came in and became T. Lobsang Rampa and wrote a series of books. And the first book was The Third Eye. Okay, whether or not the premise of the author is true, I don't, it never really felt that good. But if it's just another Englishman kind of deciding I'm going to do Helena Blavatsky one better and write as a monk myself. And where was I? Good afternoon, Mari. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah. So anyway, Lobsang Rampa. So that's what kind of brought me out of my atheism. The Tibetan Buddhist version of God was palatable enough and included astral traveling and telepathy and all that kind of good stuff. So that kind of put me back, pulled me out of that atheistic funk. That was at 17. And it was shortly after that I started investigating magic as well. And but around 18 or 19, might have been 18, the first Seth book came out. The book that supposedly he wrote through Jane Roberts, Seth Speaks. And he wrote many books, well, through Jane Roberts for years. I mean, a huge corpus of work. And that was the path that I followed for years. Sylvie comes from that background. Sylvie comes from a Seth background. Now, of course, where I am now, and having gotten properly grounded and plugged in through a Sophianic narrative, the omissions, basically, of her from the Seth material, shows it to be, once again, some excellent wisdom, but it is in the omissions that the fuckery occurs. And that's what a lot of the systems, even some of the Hermetic systems, it's what is omitted that what you're not told, and then sometimes what you're not told with, and then in the absence of that, something else is inserted. But her research, again, when she goes and she looks and she's presenting these things, and the idea-scape and some of the ancestral memory that some of that opens up is a rich place to go and investigate. And now Max Egan has picked up some of the things, and he did an amazing one a couple of weeks ago. It had to do with the Magyar language and the Aboriginal language of Australia, and how it appears that the Aboriginal of Australia is understandable by somebody who speaks Hungarian. And it was a Hungarian researcher went down there and started looking at some of the words, especially the older words, and went, wait a second. And just like so many parts of that world, they all... Matter of fact, the word for white man for the Aboriginals was something like Magyar. And then you have kind of, you have the different waves of people into New Zealand. You have the Polynesian Maori, then you have ones who go back before them. And it's just, there is a common thread in there that is telling us a story. And that's part of what kind of leads me back to Cro-Magnon. Their stature, and and where they were 70,000 years ago, and where they might have progressed to, let's say 15,000 years ago. So, how's everybody doing out there? I mean, you know, there's absolutely no way to be a Mason from the Sophanic narrative. Pretty magical things can happen during some of those rituals. I mean, well-constructed stuff that shit happens. But what is it that's happening? Oh, like, that's funny, Hans. Wet Mason dreams. That's good. I mean, there's a reason why I stopped. I stopped in 2010. And then it was just around that time period, within a year, 2011, I joined the Gaian navigation experiment. Started getting those, got on that mailing list and started getting those MP3s sent to us, and began that journey. And what a beautiful journey it's been. Except when people get offended. Yeah, it's the same Max who has the Crow House. Yes, Max Egan. He's still, he'll still occasionally go, where his to me, his very important message, if we just step away from the system, it cannot hold up, because we're the ones holding up the system. Mark Passio, who are the order followers, they're us. The order followers, the ones who beat us back and shoot us, those are us that have been hired by the goobs. So if we would just get our shit together, realize who we were, who the goobs are, and not sell ourselves to the goobs, the system would not hold up, would fall apart. And, he even said, if everybody took off for a week, what would they do? Well, we'd just, have barbecues and start having conversations with each other. And the rest of the world would not hold up, because the goobs don't work. They just show up for meetings. They don't work. So that's often his message, but lately he's been taking some brilliant, what I like is he'll take just a kind of a section of something that Sylvie has done, and then he'll bring his own things to it, so it becomes, and it's his own language. Certain people have a little trouble understanding Sylvie's Bulgarian accented English. Max's Australian accented English is very easy. He's an eloquent man. The goobs are those who run gooberment. That's in my goob song, the one that's called Go to Your Room. The opening line is, "This song is for the goobs who run gooberments and act like royalty. Your strut hits at a limp, and I think you've had a glimpse of your destiny." We have seen your work for thousands of years. Earth doesn't like you, and it's pretty clear. Your history, no, that's the wrong word there. You need to leave the stage now. We've had quite enough. Now go to your room. It's the ending line that I have. Your history is over, we break your pen. Now go to your room. Maybe Tartarus, go to your room. Well apart from us, go to your room. And welcome, Leda or Leda. It could be Leda or Leda. It's the vagary of English pronunciation. And that's what Max is saying. Step away, and they are history. They, they're standing on our backs. Dreaming in her dream, things really get sweet, don't they, MC? Presencing the dream is one of the best things I do every day. And the more I do it, the more I find myself being there without having to constantly kind of squeeze back. I don't have to squeeze back in. I just have to go, oh, I'm in the dreaming. I mean, if I'm like trying to get something out of a corner that's eluding me, every time you get something and it's like you can't seem to, all I have to do is say, I'm in the dreaming, and all of a sudden I just grab it. There's so many things that often sometimes are challenging, and I just say, let me enter the dreaming, and then I try it, and then it doesn't seem to be playing, the reality doesn't seem to be playing games with me. And it's also the sovereignty one experiences in the dreaming. I mean, what that word means on this planet, in our true creation narrative, powerful, potent. That's right. That's why the MC, you're doing a great job here. I might have to make you a moderator. Part of the people I generally tend to make moderators are people who are on the same page with the Sophianic narrative. This way here, I'm not the only one saying it. And people with wrenches often, because they have a wrench, people are, oh, what's the person with the wrench saying? So I try to pick people that are going to say things that complement what I say, and then give them wrenches. It isn't so much about moderating. No, those are cicadas in the background. Cicadas and the general night insects that just kind of do the chorus fill in, and the cicadas kind of doing their little solo things. Well, that's. Thank you for just sharing the dreaming with us, MC. Because that's what gnosis isn't about, the knowledge without experience, and that's why the gathering of knowledge. You could go on forever and ever. To me, the knowledge of utility, the knowledge that enhances our experience, or that we can actually use in our experiences. So. To me, the only thing I want more of is wisdom. Give me more wisdom. And that's the other thing. Even the titular name, Sophia, more often than not, even when I'm using it, I'm remembering that that's, the Sophia is the original pronunciation, Sophia, to differentiate the titular. That wisdom is a quality. It's an aeonic quality, just like her syzygy, thelete, intent, or will even, is a quality that marries with wisdom. What is wisdom without intent? So more often than not, when I'm presencing even the concept, even the word Sophia, I'm translating it into wisdom. Instead of saying I want to know Sophia, I want to know wisdom, because wisdom It's our goddess. No, the greatest wisdoms can't be spoken, but we can act. We can operate our will through informed from that wisdom. And will, the higher will, not the lower third chakra will, but the higher will, comes through the throat chakra, through expression. And so therefore, wisdom can be, the words that we use may not, will at least be informed by wisdom. We will speak wisely. Raksha has an announcement that he wants to make. So yes, Raksha, please make your announcement. I guess I don't have to be quiet since you're not going to come on to the mic. Yes, intent is all, and you can kind of see once again the syzygy, as John has pointed out, that the consort, the dyad, the syzygy of Sophia, the quality, the wisdom quality was intent, intention, will, and wisdom is kind of you can see why it would be the feminine aspect of that syzygy, because wisdom is holding. It's holding wisdom. It's holding space. It's holding the wisdom space. So then the active aspect of that yin-yang syzygy would be the intention, the will, the doing. And all of that will and all of that intent and all of that doing is arising from the wisdom into externalization and action. Nish, in case you're listening instead of reading, somebody's asking if you're still here because they'd like to ask you a question. And that someone is Amanda. Because Nish will put on a live stream and listen and then go do some art. I know that about her. We don't receive an education, we receive a schooling. We're schooled in a reality. Okay. Okay, so just in case some people are listening rather than reading, Raksha has made an announcement in written form, and I'm going to read it, so it's also in spoken form. And I have to kind of hold the chat down because it's moving. So Raksha says, I would like to thank those that have walked with me during this journey. This will be my last appearance on YouTube. The moose is leaving the platform. Because Raksha is my clan brother, I knew that. When he said he had an announcement, until the announcement's made, I can't say I knew what the announcement would be. I had a good guess. And yes, it is very sad that he's leaving the YouTube platform. But I'm his brother and care about him and love him very much. And I have no words to counsel him otherwise than to support his decision. Thank you, Elephant, for saying that to Raksha. Raksha has always been ready to be on the platform. It's just that the environment to operate, you need an environment. One needs an environment to support one. Plants need the right environment. Animals need the right environment for what they do and how they operate. And without the support of the environment, it is best for any organism to find an environment that isn't hostile. Once again, there is that comment section, and then there's there are certain people who do leave the comment section and make videos, for better or worse. It'll make my life easier too. Pulling arrows out of your brother's back is not fun. Social media is garbage. Not every bit of it. I mean, again, you can go into a dump, and people who have gone through dumps and found amazing things in dumps. They're still dumps. Yep, they're still dumps. Google upgraded Gmail today, and the new format is miserable. They added extras. It's just like, I don't want all this extra. I don't want to know how there's a picture in here and I can open it up. I mean, ugh, what a mess. So, yeah. So, and then Skype updated itself. I actually want to contact almost anybody I'm on Skype and say, I just need to get this. They took away, it's an upgrade. Oh, really? Then where are these 3 other features that I sometimes used? Oh, and the upgrade, I guess you considered they weren't necessary. Sometimes I'll type a reply to somebody, and then it suggests 3 different things that I might want to just click on and reply to my friend. And you have to actually click on "this is not useful" to get rid of their suggestions. So apparently, they did their studies and found that a lot of people wanted, instead of having to respond to their friend with their own words, have Microsoft come up with 3 different things that you could just click on. Your friend says something, and each of the suggestions are either in a keying off a word that you put in what you said, or a word that they use in their phrase. So they have suggestions. AI, the AI suggesting things for you. And just to think that apparently their market research, maybe it wasn't, maybe it's trying to force it on people, that to respond to somebody who I'm using a platform to have a real-time text conversation, that I'd rather take something that the AI suggests as how I reply to my friend. If that's not fucking sick, I don't know what is. It's beyond. It's not retarded. It's evil. It's lazy, and laziness can lead to some pretty evil shit. Intellectual laziness can really create monsters. So I wasn't sure when I first started this live stream. I wasn't sure how long it would run. We're getting close to normal kind of stream time for me, which is usually around 2 hours. But it has been, it's really been great to reconnect with people who I really enjoy spending screen time with, and Roxy, you can reply to Amanda. I think I know the answer. The beautiful thing is, Raksha, during the many times he said massages and things, he would have after shows, and a handful of people, and sometimes less, would join us in the after shows, and so we got to know each other, and so we have each other's emails. We've set up Google Plus, Messenger, so you can speak to each other in real time. Those of us who wanted to create relationships during the time that Raksha was online have created them. They're there. The Raksha is not lost to us. So if once again, the people who found Raksha, who wanted to really get to know him, because that's how you get to know people. You get to look at them. You hear their, they hear your voice. You hear their voice. You can see their facial expressions. I mean, sometimes, especially when there's been a number of people there, and I want to say something, or I at least want to inject part of something into it, I use my face, because everybody can see my face, and someone go, I can see, right, that you didn't whatever, and that's right, and I didn't have to say a word, because my face is visible, and I can use my face as a communication. The modern tech, we can either use us or we can use it, and it can really enrich dialogue, discussions, and relationships that would not be manageable because of distance. And fortunately, there has been, a gaggle of people that have decided that was time well spent. And everybody has to, it's each person's decision and choice what the definition of time well spent is. And during, I can't really work in my garden at night. So a lot of the time that I do spend talking to people face to face is during my nighttime. And then during the day, I'm outside as much as I can be. So, had I known that Raksha, well, maybe if I was paying attention, I might have put that in my title tonight. But probably best I didn't. It was good that those who were here and just wanted to hang out and just be chummy, as we've done for many of my Monday night live streams and other live streams that I've done. It's just to be that place, and it was so kind of amongst friends. Cyber friends, but friends, and some of us have really gotten to know each other, that Raksha was able to make this announcement, rather than maybe if I'd put it in my title, and who knows, who might have saw that as an opportunity. Because shit stirrers are always looking for some shit, right? Can't, you know, if you need shit to stir it. I'm so glad that where we are, where I am in Virginia, has really good spring water as the source of our municipal water. All the water that in this small town originates in the town itself. It flows out to other places. But the water that we use here comes from our springs. Not even wells, they come out of springs. Many of what look like small streams in this area are nothing more than the runoff of springs. They never dry up because the springs never stop producing mother's milk. So, I think this is an excellent time because this is, you know, it's been a sweet and friendly and animated and lively live stream. It has a little bit of a bittersweet quality to it. Bitter, and there's two words there: bitter and sweet. Bittersweet. I have to say, much of the way I tend to place some of the less pleasant memories I have, and when I say less pleasant memories, I'm talking about the things I've done, not about what things people have done to me. I can let go of what people things have done to me because they're gone. Just release them, they're gone. It's the things I've done to other people. Those are the things that will occasionally haunt me. And it's not horrible stuff. But when you get to a point where you really know what it's like to come from a loving place and a compassionate place, and then you do some review and you go, oh man, no, really? Oh, God, Red. Ugh. So, those are, but there's the wisdom of them. So those get qualified as bittersweet. All right, Amanda, thank you for joining us. Get some good sleep. Get some good dream time. Yes, enjoy being. And it's actually very refreshing that you come in the way you do without luggage. Hello, Callan. How's the nomadic lifestyle, Callan? Awesome. Living the dream. Good words. Good choice of words. Excellent. So we're getting ready to close. I'm getting ready to bring this Mystic Brew catching up, walking softly, and to conclusion. and I've considered it largely a success. There were certain certain things knocking around in my psyche that I did not want to really address, and I feel relatively successful, if not completely successful. And so I will be doing, okay, a little bit about the future. I will be doing other mystic brews, and I guess I'll probably go back to the Monday night time. Monday night is a good night for me, with my crazy scheduling. I've had a chance to recover from many other things that sometimes I have to recover from. It's a day I can be the most fresh, so I tend to like that. Tonight, because I didn't have rehearsal, Uncle Butchie, the drummer, has a friend who was in a hospital. He's in bad shape. He wanted to go visit his friend, so we canceled rehearsal for tonight. So that left me really with a little extra energy. You're welcome, White Lunar World Bridger. And so there, I will be doing Mystic Brews. I want to do Mystic Muses, and then my song release. So basically, the three things, the live streams, concepts I'm working with will be Mystic Brews, which will be a bit on alternative history and just kind of trying to talk about things that empower us and create greater wisdom, including starting to get rid of some of the bullshit of his story, and and of course I can't discuss anything about being on this planet without being a telestic, but it's not going to be a telestic focus. It's just that's kind of the Sophianic narrative, is the cosmology. We kind of all come from some kind of creation story, and so that's a creation myth, and so that's that will always be how I explain where I come from, and generally how I would be explaining where all you come from too. Whether or not you agree is not important. And then Mystic Muse. And the Mystic Muse is, I love music. I love talking about music a little bit, and there's a guy like Rick Beato who is just like, a music professor who's really doing some good stuff. But just like how Can't You Hear Me Gnostic was kind of taking the teachings of JLL and bringing them into more of a kind of a conversation for everybody, or a discussion for everybody. Similarly, I want to have discussions about music that is kind of like for everybody. Rick Beato is going to speak to you in theory at all times, where I will use theory, but I'm willing to kind of walk through it, explain it a little bit, kind of get grounded in it. I want to talk about songwriting, the fun of it all, and then like just pick out bits of one of the favorite amp I have, but the different amps I have, why I think it's a great amp, who I think it's great for, and then even using a lot of my own material to demonstrate things. Just and I don't know how long that will run. It might depends on how well it goes, and it might not be for everybody who's used to what I do. I'm quite sure some people will find it interesting, and other people are like, oh no, I'll come for your Mystic Brews. But then again, I might also attract a few people who like music and really don't like alternative history. So, and it's not even necessarily to grow subscribers, but just to expand, to find out there are some people out there that whose language I might speak about something I'm very passionate. When you see me pick up a guitar and I start speaking about music or anything, you see me light up. It lights me up, and that's a fun place to be personally. All lit up. Thank you, Hans. And so I'm going to go there. Mystic Muse is going to be that. So and I will always use my Weber speaker for their site, because Weber is in my opinion, the finest speaker maker. I've owned lots of speakers. I still have some eminent speakers, including their American voiced, their English voiced, their papers, their hemp, and then I fortunately have a small collection of Weber speakers. And there is, if you like to really hear everything you're playing, and with wonderful expression and great, just magical expression, then Weber's a speaker company to use. So my Mystic Muses will always be, so to speak, sponsored by Weber. Not that they're, but I'm gonna promote Weber. And then maybe one of these days when I kind of get my my bodywork business a little bit up, and I actually might have some money, actually will have money to spend besides on food and bills, and I can treat myself to a speaker. And maybe, when I approach them, I'm going, hey, you know what I do, because I'm in contact with the guy there. Who knows, they might give me a nice price. And that would always help. Hello, Tricia. Long time no see. Oh, let me make an announcement regarding Raksha Moose. Raksha Moose's GoFundMe still has a goal to reach. Raksha, if you want to, I don't know if you have the link there. Unfortunately, I don't have the link ready. But Raksha Moose still has, hers going to surgery, but there's also the parts coming out after that. It's the support, and some of the meds and stuff. And so he has a goal. He knew what it would run, and he put it up there, but that goal has not yet been met. So if anybody wants to, you might want to and you can't, understood. But if you would like to, want to, and can, please go to Raksha Moose's GoFundMe page and help him meet his goal. Please, if you can. And so I think that will be it. I hope I kind of did my little intro song, and maybe I'll just play a little bit of it to get out of here. Good night, all. So I can't stop the stream while Raksha's going for the link. So I saw him put that in there. I realized my timing was premature. I'm not used to being premature. So the stream has not ended. That was a mock ending. But I hope it was a playfully. It wasn't mockery. It was just a mock-up. So we will wait, and I will continue. Oh, there we go. And that's just a little piece out of a longer piece that I have of a song I wrote called Going Back to Kashmir. One of the reasons I did it, it doesn't really, it's Jimmy Page wrote his song Kashmir in the Dad Gad tuning. So what you heard me just play is in the Dad Gad tuning. A lot of people use Dad Gad, or enough people. So because I was using the same tuning that Jimmy Page used for Kashmir, and I like to create a little bit of a mystical thing. So I kind of decided to call, and again, it's part of a much longer piece. That's just actually part of the middle. But the operating title of the song is Going Back to Kashmir. And so with that, I'll come here, talk, use my voice just a little bit longer with my thumbnail, and wish everybody a beautiful week, a wonderful weekend, and May wisdom find you and fill you.